Today I'm going to be discussing about a short story from the book Charles, which was published in 1948, which is right after the World War II. In this story, the main character is Laurie, who just started kindergarten, and he discusses with his parents about the first days of school. His mom is the narrator of the story, and we see what's happening from her point of view. Charles seems like a person who doesn't really respect his parents, and that's because he doesn't really answer the questions and is trying to avoid some questions. And also, when they asked him if he learned anything in school, he said that he didn't learn anything, which shows that he doesn't really care about what his parents are going to think. Whereas now, people would rather try and say that they've learned something because that's the point of them going to school. And then Laurie talks about a kid, Charles, who's always getting in trouble, and he kind of admires him. He also hates the teachers, which is very serious because it shows like disrespect. And his parents kind of want to know why Charles is behaving that way, and that is pretty much the content of the story. And some of the themes is the theme of identity. We see Laurie, him and his parents, even though they might be close, there's no respect from him towards them. That can be shown by the examples I mentioned before. Some of the other themes are the experiences, because we can see that he's talking about his experiences in school, and also we can kind of understand Laurie's character from his previous experiences. So for example, his actions towards his parents show that the respect he gained, he never respected his parents because he's acting that way, and his parents weren't willing to help him. Didn't teach him to respect them, which is again an interesting theme of the story.
Okay, and how old do you think Laurie is?
Laurie was in kindergarten, so I was around the age of 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of identity, you mentioned the story is very much about his identity and the respect.
Yeah.
The relationship with his parents. Do you think school is as much to blame for his identity, or his parents? Or to what ratio?
I mean, first of all, you learn respect from your parents, and then when you go to school, you develop that respect towards your friends and towards the teachers there. So it's kind of like, if you don't have the respect from the first place, it's hard to get it later on. But if you do have the respect, then it's hard to lose it. So it kind of goes like, if you already have respect, you're going to maintain it. Whereas if you don't, then you're going to maintain it. Then the school is probably going to try and help you get it, but it might not always be the case. So the parents are more important than the school, but the school is also important because it can develop it even further.
And you mentioned that you thought that Laurie admired Charles.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Oh, I'm saying that because when he tells his parents what Charles did, and most of the times we don't tell our parents what other people do that's bad, because I mean, we don't want our parents to know that in the school there's problems, and we don't want our parents to know that there's a kid like that. But the fact that Charles tells them means that he doesn't really care what his parents are going to think, first of all, and second, the way he explains everything is as it was simple. For example, when he hit the teacher, he said because she tried to make him color with red crayons, he doesn't say how it was bad. He just mentioned it like it was normal.
Hmm.
So that means that he thinks that his actions are normal. So he thinks that he admires him.
Okay, that sounds good. And you mentioned identities as one of the IB themes. Did you mention any other themes? I can't remember.
I mentioned identity and experiences.
Okay, experiences, because obviously switching to kindergarten from preschool is a big experience for a little child like that.
And he'll experience it with his parents.
Yeah. Do you can you relate that to your own life?
I mean, every time I was disrespectful towards my parents, my parents would always like tell me off and make me like understand why what I say is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And being disrespectful is not always like talking back to them in a mean way. It's also like the tone of your voice when you say stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that this was like a problem that Laurie had.
Interesting point. Yes, I agree with you. And there's another theme, sharing the planet, which obviously we have to share the planet with other people as well, and he has to interact with other people in the story. So I would say that's possibly relevant as well. Would you agree?
I mean, we all sharing the planet. There's always people who are going to be more like disrespectful and more immature than others.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all sharing the planet. What happens is we should be able to judge for ourselves if someone's being disrespectful or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always good and bad people, but they need to like be living in the planet and not have like the same opportunities. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of if you're a bad person, then the community should like do something to you and explain to you why what you're doing is wrong.
So we, at the end of the story, we don't actually know whether the bad boy is Laurie, if Charles is Laurie, or if Charles is just from Laurie's imagination. Mm-hmm. Do you have a suspicion about which?
Yeah, I think Laurie's Charles, because as I said, the calmness, the way he explains what Charles did makes it seem very normal.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there's any hope for Laurie then? Can school and his parents turn him into a decent person?
No, I don't. I think that if you're being immature and if you're okay with your own actions from when you're a child and your parents haven't like showed you the way to be polite with people, because politeness is very important in our world, mm-hmm. Then it's very, very hard. Unless you want to change yourself, then it's hard for others to do it. And I'm not too sure if Laurie wants to do that. Mm-hmm. Because let's not forget the stories written after the World War II, where there are like many problems created. Because after a war, mm-hmm. there's like bad experiences that people suffered through, and then it's common for children to not be like navigated in the right way from their parents, mm-hmm. because their parents might be influenced by the war itself.
Okay.
So,
do you think this story, because it's set in the USA, is it still easy for you to understand the concepts that are going on in the story? And do you think it crosses cultural boundaries?
I think there's always children who don't have like good values and do not respect others and are more naughty, like more than enough, because mm-hmm. children can be naughty because they're small and they can't always control themselves. But there's a boundary, and after you reach the boundary, then there's like a problem that it needs to be tackled by either the school or the parents. Mm-hmm. It's hard to resolve at the end. But I think that this story could be happening anywhere in the world, because there's always people who are not like polite. You know?
Is there any way that the story doesn't really fit your own culture?
No, for me personally, I have had a friend like Charles, and he got kicked out of the school. So maybe the school was too resilient with him.
Okay.
But yeah, there are like, this can happen in my culture as well.
And do you think there's a lesson to be learned from the story?
Not really. I think it's kind of hard, because if you ask every parent, of course they're going to want their child to be respectful and to respect others. And if you read that, what you get is that your child should like learn how to respect from a young age. But
Mhm.
if you as a person are not willing to take the actions and um, take this into action, then you can't really learn.
And were you doing the IB? Were you doing an MYP course before you joined this school, or
No.
do you notice? Do you feel there's any difference in how the schools have helped you become a good person or an adult?
I think my school is was smaller before, so when I came here, I learned I became more open minded because it's an international school. I got to know people all over the world, and they were they all had like different ideas, which made me like be more open to new ideas myself. In my Greek school, that wasn't the case. We're all like Greek. We're all like kind of the same people in a way, um, and no one like really cared about what happened around the world, like the conflict, the um, discrimination towards like different races and skin colors, and that's why I think being in international school is very important.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of the test.